welcome to American Outdoors. Today, we're going back to the piney woods and cypress swamps of North Florida, to a time when the sound of crosscut saws and steam engines echoed through the timberlands. The year was the late 1930s, rolling into the early 1940s, and deep in Taylor and Dixie counties, the Brooks-Scanlon Lumber Company was running full steam ahead. This rare color footage, filmed by Charles L. Buster Borklund Jr., captures a moment in time when logging was still done by hand, by men who worked sunup to sundown in brutal conditions. Borklund was more than just a company man. He was a photographer with a keen eye for history, a paymaster and commissary operator who spent 37 years with Brooks-Scanlon. He filmed the loggers he knew by name, men who earned their living in the swamps, one tree at a time. After a tree was felled, the scaler, in this case, a man named Wash Slaughter, would measure the log and calculate the board footage, determining what the company would pay the crew. Every inch of timber was money, and every mistake could mean less in your pay envelope on Saturday. In the early 1900s, Florida's forests were a logger's dream, endless miles of longleaf pine, slash pine, and bald cypress. These trees built America's early homes, ships, and railroads. By the 1940s, the big timber boom was winding down, but there were still stands of cypress so large it took 2 men, a crosscut saw, and a whole lot of determination to bring them down. But bringing the logs out of the swamp? That's where the real muscle came in. Steam-powered overhead skidders were used to drag the giant trunks through the muck. A signal man stood clear, waving handkerchiefs or shouting orders while workers clipped steel tongs into the logs. You'll see one man, fearless, hanging from the tongs as they lift him high over a mountain of timber. OSHA didn't exist yet, and neither did safety gear. Then came the Caterpillar tractors, early crawlers, belching smoke and clawing through the swamp mud to haul logs to the loading decks. A steam crane would swing in, loading the timber onto flatbed rail cars. Every step in the process was loud, dirty, and dangerous, but it was also a marvel of teamwork and precision. Nearby, another crew laid down fresh rail lines using clamshell cranes and hand tools, building temporary tracks just to keep up with the advancing logging front. The woods kept moving, and so did the railroad. Now make no mistake, there was nothing easy about it. Logging crews often worked long days in smothering heat, many times in knee-deep water, surrounded by mosquitoes thick enough to choke a mule. Each team used axes and handsaws to cut down giants that had been standing for generations. And if a tree was too dangerous to fell or inaccessible, a timber-killing crew would girdle it, cutting a ring through the bark to slowly kill it, so it could be harvested later when the swamp dried out. Every logging camp had its own cast of characters. There was Old John, the camp delivery man, riding a mule-drawn wagon, hauling supplies and collecting waste. Companies such as Brooks-Scanlon would use large steam-operated log loaders or railroad shovels with massive scoops, shovels, or dippers to load logs onto flat cars. They were also utilized for excavating dirt, stumps, and muck, and digging drainage ditches to prevent flooding. During the early 1930s, major mills like Brooks-Scanlon were harvesting up to 500 million board feet of lumber each year. Over the entire decade, it has been estimated that Florida logging companies produced as much as 12 billion board feet. At the time, there were as many as 600 mills in Florida, and by the late 1930s, the state ranked between 5th and 7th in nationwide lumber production. The camps were rough: tents, wood shacks, and commissaries where men could buy everything from tobacco to canned beans on company credit. Yet, for all the hardship, there was pride in the work. These men knew that their labor built America: the mills, the homes, the ships that carried our soldiers overseas. By the late 1940s, Florida's great timber stands were nearly gone. The big lumber companies moved west or north, and the swamps grew quiet again. But the echoes of those steam whistles, the ring of axes, and the laughter around the campfire, that's part of Florida's heritage. And thanks to Charles Buster Borklund's camera, we can still see it today, the colors of the South's logging era, preserved in motion and memory. This was more than just logging. It was a way of life. Dangerous, backbreaking, and honest. The men who cut the swamps helped shape a growing nation, one log at a time. And in one of the film's most unbelievable moments, a Kelly axe salesman shaves a man's face with an axe, right there in front of a crowd of loggers. After the demonstration, the men take turns testing the blade themselves, hacking into stumps with the kind of pride only working men understand. Most loggers of that era earned between $1.50 and $3 a day, depending on their skill and position. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but for many families in rural Florida, it meant survival through the Great Depression and into the wartime years. If you enjoyed this look into Florida's forgotten logging days, make sure to like the video, subscribe to American Outdoors, and check out our other stories from America's working past, where history still breathes in the tools, the machines, and the people who built this country. From all of us here at American Outdoors, thanks for watching.